I kind of debated making this video for a while because I feel like it's been a lot of quarantine-related content lately in this quarantine, and I'm not necessarily sure that I don't want to be like more of a person that distracts you from the whole situation, but it does appear as though a lot of people are looking to this channel as a source of emotional stability that doesn't deny the current situation. And so that's kind of what I'm gonna be. So the whole quarantine situation is hitting all of us hard in very different ways, but there is one particular group of people that I want to talk about today, and that is the ones who are stuck with their abusers. Trust me when I say that I can relate to what that feels like. I was physically and emotionally abused in different instances during my childhood and adolescence, and I've only fairly recently been able to actually come to grips with that. And as a child, I felt just really stuck in those situations with no escape. And I know that even as an adult, where you can just walk away, it doesn't feel like you can do that. It feels like you are just as stuck. Especially if you were abused as a child, which, will make you seek out those same behavioral blueprints for your relationships. You feel as though if you were to walk away from this person who is abusing you, you would lose everything else in your life that you rely on for stability. Sometimes you might even think that your abuser is doing more good than harm for you, so the harm is justified. You may romanticize the situation, focusing over the few good moments that doubtless existed over all of the bad. This is especially true if you are in one of those cycles where you always go back to the security of your abusive relationship, because you will just tell yourself that all of the bad things can change and they are over now, and for a while they might be, but they always come back. This is also a cycle that is part of the abusive relationship. You might be one of those people who thinks that it isn't really the fault of your abuser that they are doing what they are doing, or that maybe it's even your fault, which is something that your abuser will try to reinforce because it gives them more power over you. And that may even be true. Many abusers do not understand that they are abusers. I can relate to that because I myself am one of those people who will always try to justify the abusive behavior of others towards me. I've been reading old court documents as a self-therapy type deal about a big thing that happened in my childhood, or rather a series of big things that kind of dominated the underlying tone of my childhood and is very close to the abuse that I experienced. And I found something in there that I don't remember at all, which is most things, but it hit very hard. Not only was I an absolute Chad kid about the truth, always telling the truth and always owning up to any instance where I lied, but apparently I was able to identify the abuse that was given to me, the behavior of my abuser, as abuse and as selfish, but I would still protect them and try to justify what they did because of their mental illness, that they didn't know any better, that they didn't even know it was actually abuse, and so they should be cut slack and I should have to suffer this for that other person. But that doesn't excuse their behavior. I was 4 years old at the time. Fucking 4. A 4-year-old shouldn't be thinking about interpersonal relationships in that manner. And it's a pattern of behavior that I still recognize in myself, and it's difficult to break. And it's not even necessarily the worst kind of disposition to have if you are properly aware of it and can remedy it and can actually use it to help other people, because very often abusers are themselves the victims of abuse. But it is essential that you and also I learn that this shouldn't come at the cost of our own mental health. That is more important than the mental health of our abusers. It doesn't excuse their behavior, and it also doesn't diminish the impact that it has on you. All of these factors can make it extremely difficult to leave an abusive person behind. But right now, they are massively exacerbated by the fact that we are all just stuck. We literally cannot leave the spaces that we share with our abusers. We cannot get away from them right now. For many of us, it's illegal to do so at this point in time. Phone calls to abuse help resources like hotlines and centers where they help people who are victims of abuse have gone down drastically these past few weeks, whereas texting has increased just so much more than the phoning has decreased. To spell it out for you, people have less of an opportunity to feel safe and hide from their abusers and hide the fact that they are seeking help from their abusers. It is much more difficult right now because there is no longer a place where they can go to feel safe. There is no more time that they have alone without their abuser. People are stuck with abusive partners, parents, siblings, friends, roommates, everything. This is a terrible situation. And the situation gets even more complicated when we realize that many of these relationships are not merely abusive, but mutually abusive. This is especially difficult because a large part of any individual person's emotional regulation is tied up with the other person. It would be best if they just separated, but that cannot happen. You have people that are usually in very good relationships to each other acting out in abusive behavior patterns at this point in time because we're just not designed to be around the same people in such a confined space to such a large period of time. And all the pressure from the outside is just pressing down on that even more. So if you are in this situation, imagine how much worse it is for people in like actual abuse situations. That is the level of horribleness that we're talking about here. And the problem is that with these situations, they are always so different that it is generally very difficult to find ways to help them. And though 99% of the time the solution is stop being in each other's lives, that's not an option right now. It is in the first place very difficult to make someone realize that they are part of an abusive relationship, be they the victim of abuse or the abuser themselves. And it is difficult for the victim to get away at the very best of times. But even right now, in this terrible situation, there is still hope for you. There are still resources available that can help you. I've already alluded to this, but like abuse hotlines and stuff, they tend to have texting capability because, you know, it's the year 2020 and they understand that secrecy is very important in these kinds of situations. They also, you know, have email addresses and online chat rooms and everything. I mean, it's good to like get in touch with people online in general these days. It's very important to remain socially connected. This is especially true if you are in an abusive relationship because very often that other person will seem like they are everything in your world and they are not. But when you can't talk to anyone else, that just gets exacerbated. If you feel at all or you suspect at all that you might be in an abusive relationship, please, 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 the hotline for your area is just one Google search away. There are hotlines that function internationally even. Even in relationships that function properly, it is always good and healthy to talk about that relationship with an outside party so you don't lose perspective. You could and should try to talk to your friends about this, which is a problem because many abusers try to isolate people from their friends. And if you're an insular person by nature, you are especially vulnerable to this. Understand that this quarantine isn't forever and you will be able to leave. You can do something about the situation right now, and it is not hopeless. And if you find yourself in the other position, where the quarantine has separated you from your abuser, take this chance. Do not romanticize the relationship. Try to get away with them with this opportunity that you have now. I know this can be very difficult because the devil you know gives you a kind of comfort and familiarity that you may yearn for right now because things are scary. But you can and will find this somewhere else also. and without the abusive part. As terrible as the situation is right now, this is an opportunity that you can take if you want to. You do not owe them anything. Even if you think that their mental health might be at risk right now, you need to prioritize your own mental health. It is important that you do so. Not doing so would be a disservice to all parties involved. Staying in an abusive relationship has nothing to do with being a good person. I know this because I tell myself this all the time, but it's not true. It is actually just being a victim, which can be even harder to admit to yourself. I know that this is difficult no matter which situation you may be in right now. But understand that there is hope for you, there is a way out for you, there is a light at the end of the tunnel for you, if only you reach out to someone who can help. And even if you cannot do that, if you do not have the resources, if you do not know anyone and for some reason can't contact any of the hotlines, which is unlikely, but it might be the case for you, there is still an end to the quarantine in sight at some point. I'm not a magical juju person, but I'm trying to send you the strength to get through this, because I know that you have it in you. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope it helped maybe one or two of you. That would be sufficient, really. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, share this to your relevant communities, but do not spam them. You may have noticed that I didn't put music behind this because I feel like I like my nice jazzy tunes by Kevin MacLeod, my man. But I don't feel like having a nice tune in the background of these videos is appropriate. Consider maybe supporting me on Subscribestar or Patreon if you can afford it in these times. Buying some of my merchandise, which I should probably check if they're shipping. I know they're not shipping my book anymore. Unless you want the ebook version, which still goes totally. And in that spirit, I hope you can reflect upon the situation you are in. And if you are in an abusive relationship situation, even if you are an abuser, you may well be an abuser watching this video. Someone who doesn't want to be an abuser. You need to be able to get out of there. And I really hope that you can find it in yourself to do so. And see you around, cunts.